I'm making this video in this way because of a huge failure. I wanted to go out and ask people if they thought that anybody could learn anything, but I messed up the audio. So I have no usable audio, but I do remember everything that happened. So I'm going to recount it to you today. So let me tell you the format that's going on here. I asked the same question in three ways to each person that I talked to. And really, what I was going for is to get to a philosophical concept that I have, an understanding that I have about the nature of what humans can understand or can know or can create. And I wanted to ask it in a pretty simple way. So I came at it through this direction of multiple asking the same question multiple times and seeing if the answers would be consistent. And I was quite surprised by the results of this because I have been thinking about this subject for several months, and I've asked many of my friends, my close friends, about the topic, and they gave very different answers. Very consistently, my friends would give one set of answers, and uh, according to this street interviews that I did, everybody gave the opposite answer that I was consistently getting from my friends. So I was very surprised by them. So let's go over them. So I started by meeting Anne. So I asked her, "Do you think that any person can learn anything?" And to my surprise and delight, she says, yes, she does believe that any person can learn anything. So that's the first question I asked. The next question I asked, remember to me, these are the same questions, but the next question I asked is, "Do you think that you can learn anything?" And she gave a lovely answer, starting with a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of perhaps shyness and insecurity, but quickly turning around where she says very clearly, "If I had enough time, I could learn anything." She continued with a little bit of a personal story about her growing up and struggling with ADHD in school and having other friends who had ADHD and having issues with that in terms of making good grades and so on, and she felt demotivated by all that. But eventually she and her other friends who had some sort of ADHD began to work together and learn how to understand the subject material. So, as they worked together, they found that they could consistently come to the correct answers, though they would consistently come to it in a different way than everybody else. But that gave her the feeling, that's the anecdote that she went to inform the fact that any person can learn anything. And then she goes on about how old she is and blah blah blah. But, she has the spirit there. She has the spirit. The final question I ask is, could any person understand your personal experience? And she gives a very straightforward answer. Yeah, sure. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Of course, a part of learning anything would be knowing your personal experience or understanding your own personal experience. On to the next guy, I found Ethan just walking around and I asked the same set of questions. Can any person learn anything? He thought for a moment. He says, "Yeah, sure." But I could see the wheels turning. He had a but coming and he came out with the but. But it's all about motivation. It's a matter of what you're interested in if you care to learn about certain things. What an amazing thing to say. You can learn anything that you care about. You can learn anything that you're interested in. You can learn anything that you're motivated to learn. Sign me up for that worldview. That sounds awesome. Okay, then I asked the same question in a slightly different way, asking Ethan if he thinks that he can learn anything. Here he takes an even longer second to think about it. You can see his reaction visually. He came out with the same sort of answer as our first guess. He says, "If I had enough time, I could. Yes." I asked if he had something like a subject that came into mind, and he says that he would be interested in learning astrophysics. Like that's the thing. If he had enough time, he would want to spend some time learning astrophysics. How cool is that? And then I ask him the final question: could every person understand your personal experience? And for this one, he backs down a bit more into yes, but only to some extent. It's possible to some extent understand somebody's personal experience. Hey, fair enough. You win some, you lose some. We can't get everybody on everything here. I go on to tell him that I think his view is optimistic, and he says he's surprised by my statement of this, and he says that he must be a good actor. And finally, I asked Angie the same set of questions. Can any person learn anything? And she says, yes, if you put your mind to it, you can learn anything. And I ask her the same question about herself. Can you learn anything? And she says again, yes. And I ask her what it is that she would want to learn, and she says she wants to travel, she wants to learn different languages and meet people and really understand different cultures. And then I ask a final question. Could any person understand your personal experience? She told me that she was the youngest of 16 from Colombia. So from all those interactions, we got 3 people who were very open in thinking that anybody could learn anything. Now, the surprising part to me was that I've asked many of my friends in the past, and most of them say that not everybody can learn anything. In fact, there are many things that humanity could never learn at all, ever. Usually has something to do with, think about the people with mental disabilities, or think about the babies, or think about the old people, or think about the people with low IQ. And then sometimes in a different angle of it will be, we'll think about the mysteries of the universe. No one can understand consciousness. No one can understand God. No one can understand. So I was quite surprised from this sort of cursory interaction with a few folks that they all thought that people could learn anything. Of course, I didn't hammer down into specifics of every little thing, and the few specifics that I did go down led to a little bit of hesitation. So there's more to be said there about that. And of course, I asked many, many more people. Okay, well, not many, many. I asked like 6 or 7 more other people to interview, and got rejected by a bunch of them. Severely rejected by several of them. Some of them nicely, but some of them not so nicely. So of course, there's a little bit of a selection bias of the friendliest folks who have a bit of time to talk about these things. This is kind of the sense of a few regular folks. They think that it is possible for anybody to learn anything. Of course, I also think that it is possible for any person to learn anything, and any person includes any person. I very much like the idea that motivation or interest is driving what people want to learn, and that, of course, whether or not they want to learn something drives if they do learn something. And I'm kind of I was wanting to be a little bit. I wanted to ask the question very simply, so I put it in the context of learning. But of course, I also mean to say that they can create new knowledge. They can create the understanding of something new themselves. And I mean, anybody can do this. My main interest is art, so most of this channel is going to be about beauty or aesthetics. And I think as a part of any person being able to learn anything or be able to create anything that is possible to be created, let's say mentally, then they would be able to create any beauty that is possible to be created. Because the set of all possible beautiful things or patterns, or however we want to say that, is available to be explored by any human. And if they can create that in their mind, then they can create it into a work of art. And then it could be a work of art can embody this beauty that could be widely appreciated. Or another way of putting it, any person could appreciate any work of art. It's another opposite way of putting it. All that stuff is highly, highly interesting to me, and relevant to my life. That's what I'm interested in. I want to know how to appreciate works of art. I want to come to more ways to appreciate works of art. And I also want to explore the fact that humans can create beauty, which is wide reaching, meaning that it could be appreciated by many other people, including regular regular old humans, including expert class of humans who are like some sort of connoisseur or artistic, whatever the heck. And then going even beyond that into other types of people, including artificial people or alien people, and so on. The possibilities there are not limited. I don't think they are limited. And I'm also interested in the idea of something like an artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence being able to create something that is beautiful and recognizably beautiful to people, regular human people, and so on. I think you get the picture here. That's really the reason why I have the interest in this understanding of whether or not people can understand anything that is possible to be understood. In any case, that's my video here. Thanks for joining. My name is Zachary, by the way. I don't know if I said that earlier. I like art stuff and I like you too. Glad that you're here watching this video. Like and subscribe and support in any way that you know how.